We begin in North America, where Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum has once again pushed back firmly against President Donald Trump's threat of military action on Mexican soil. Speaking to reporters on Tuesday, Sheinbaum was clear and direct, saying it's not going to happen.
Yes, it's not going to happen. In fact, there was a statement afterwards. I've mentioned many times in the conversations I've had with President Trump, phone calls where he has suggested on several occasions or has said, "We offer you a military intervention from the United States in Mexico, whatever you need to combat criminal groups." But I have told him on all occasions that we can collaborate, that they can help us with the information they have, but that we operate in our own territory.
Her comments followed President Trump's latest warning, in which he said he would be okay with launching strikes if that is what it takes to stop the flow of drugs. President Trump added that he wasn't happy with Mexico and claimed that U.S. agencies have Mexican drug corridors under major surveillance.
Would I launch strikes in Mexico to stop drugs? It's okay with me. Whatever we have to do to stop drugs. Mexico is, look, I looked at Mexico City over the weekend. There's some big problems over there. If we had to, would we do there what we've done to the waterways? You know, there's almost no drugs coming in through our waterways anymore. Isn't it down like 85%?
Sheinbaum has made her position clear multiple times in conversations with the president and Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
We've said this with the State Department, with Marco Rubio, and they have understood. So much so that the understanding we have with them is one of collaboration and coordination. And the first points make very clear the respect for sovereignty, respect for our territoriality, and that there is collaboration and coordination without subordination.
Sheinbaum pointed to the 19th century Mexican-American War, noting that the last time U.S. troops intervened, Mexico lost half its territory. The Mexican president has been praised for her calm but steady approach to the relationship that is often marked by turbulence. Earlier this month, she dismissed reports that Washington planned to send troops into Mexico, repeating that her government rejects any form of interference.
It won't happen. We have a security agreement that we worked on for many months with the United States government, and we agreed on it when the Secretary of State was here. We will continue working within that framework, which has very clear principles stated at the beginning of the document: respect for our sovereignty, our territorial integrity, and collaboration and coordination without subordination of either state. So no, that's not going to happen.
Still, President Trump continues to pressure Mexico, urging more effort in curbing drug trafficking and migrant flows across the border. Sheinbaum's latest remarks came just after Trump met FIFA President Gianni Infantino at the Oval Office on Monday, where the president highlighted his expanding military campaign against drug cartels and criminal networks across Latin America. Trump referred to the ongoing U.S. bombing campaign in the Caribbean and the Pacific that began on September 2nd. So far, at least 21 deadly missile strikes have been carried out against suspected drug smuggling boats, killing at least 83 people. Now, the White House has also deployed a massive naval presence close to Venezuela, and the president says the buildup is necessary to stop drugs from reaching American shores. All of this signals a new and far more assertive U.S. posture towards Latin America, one that places Mexico and Venezuela at the center of Washington's strategic calculations. President Sheinbaum continues, however, to make clear Mexico has no intention of allowing foreign boots on its soil, setting up a complex diplomatic test that both nations will have to navigate going forward.
London raising the stakes as a Russian spy ship prowls the British waters, tension soaring with warnings that military force is on standby. Undersea secrets in the balance, and Britain, it seems, is ready to strike. The clock is ticking on the shadowy Russian spy ship Yantar, lurking close to the UK shores reportedly. British defence chiefs have made it clear if this vessel steps up its intelligence gathering or threatens security, military options are locked and loaded.
That Russian action is deeply dangerous. And this is the second time this year that this ship, the Yantar, has deployed to UK waters. So my message to Russia and to Putin is this: we see you, We know what you're doing, and if the Yantar travels south this week, we are ready.
Now, this is no ordinary ship. It's a heavily equipped spy vessel, reportedly, with robotic submersibles capable of mapping and tapping undersea cables, the hidden arteries of Britain's digital and military communication ecosystem. The British Ministry of Defence, in fact, says it will not tolerate shadow games. Pilots have been scrambled, naval assets put on high alert, surveillance increased.
This is a vessel designed for gathering intelligence and mapping our undersea cables. We deployed a Royal Navy frigate and RAF P-8 planes to monitor and track this vessel's every move, during which the Yantar directed lasers at our pilots.
The message from London is quite simple. Espionage near British waters crosses a red line, and military muscle is primed for action with contingency plans ready to counter any hostile moves, up to and including disabling the spy ship. And it is not the first time that the Yantar has probed Britain defences. After a warning last year, it left UK waters for the Mediterranean. When the Russian ship later sailed through the English Channel in January, it was followed by HMS Somerset, a frigate assigned to homeland defence in the waters around Britain. The UK and its NATO allies are concerned about the risk that Russia poses to offshore cables, pipelines and other infrastructure that's critical to internet connectivity. And Moscow has previously refuted such allegations, calling the movement of its ships as routine.
The United Nations Secretary-General has warned world leaders that terrorism in the Sahel is a growing global threat. Speaking to the UN Security Council on Tuesday, Antonio Guterres urged nations to work together and allow for coordinated action against terrorism.
We face the risk of a disastrous domino effect across the entire region. Many countries are reeling. And terrorism in the Sahel is not only a regional dramatic reality. Progressing links of its groups with other groups in Africa and beyond make it a growing global threat. And the Sahel accounts for 19% of global terrorist attacks and over half of global terrorism-related casualties. This violence and instability are unleashing massive suffering.
The recent decision by Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger to leave ECOWAS has created new challenges for regional cooperation.
Unfortunately, the situation in our region is characterized by mistrust and high level of suspicion among stakeholders. Therefore, I would like to call on members of this Council, and indeed the international community as a whole, to help us build trust. No amount of money, no amount of equipment will help us overcome terrorism if we don't collaborate and build synergy.
According to the Global Terrorism Index, the Sahel accounts for over half of all global terrorism deaths.
4.1 earthquake hit in northern San Luis Obispo County Tuesday, with local residents and businesses feeling the widespread shake. I'm your community reporter Dylan Foreman, taking a look at some of the damage and talking with people about their experiences.
In my bedroom, and it felt literally like my roof was going to cave in. It just shook.
All of a sudden it felt like I had been hit by a truck or something. The whole lift jumped off the ground.
Hitting just before 10 a.m., the earthquake originated near Highway 46 in Templeton, about 5 miles west of Highway 101. Among the places it was felt was Grey Wolf Cellars and Grey and Vinecraft Distillery, toppling bottles and glassware, but surprisingly, the Jenga set outside remained upright.
Everything was on the floor, not dissimilar than it was back in 2003. Not quite as many bottles. Like in 2003, this whole thing was on the floor.
Owner Joe Barton has now been a part of a few big earthquakes, including the deadly 6.5 San Simeon earthquake that caused major damage to downtown Paso Robles. While this one was far less devastating, it was memorable, especially for the students of Pat Butler Elementary.
I remember being on a soccer field and experiencing an earthquake, and I'll never forget the feeling. So I absolutely think our students will remember today.
Butler Elementary School Principal Christy Holman says her students were prepared after taking part of the Great Shakeout just last month, a time every year school districts take to practice earthquake safety.
Our students and our staff were ready to respond to an actual earthquake today.
Waking up to a shaking roof, crashing glass, driving a rattling forklift, or running around on the playground, the effects were felt throughout the Paso Robles and Templeton area.
They feel more like a rolling, and this was such an abrupt kind of stop that it didn't feel like anything I had felt before.
We forget, like, we are an earthquake country. It's going to happen. We're very fortunate that was, that if this is just the size of it, great. Because when it gets bigger, it gets a lot more, obviously dangerous.
The Paso Robles Police Department reported that as of 11 a.m. Tuesday morning, there were no calls related to damages due to the earthquake. In Paso Robles, Dylan Foreman, KSBY News.
A delicate ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is being tested after the Israeli forces carried out strikes across southern Lebanese village. Now, the IDF claims that it is a strike on Hezbollah sides, but the images show the Palestinian refugee camps that were bombed up in flames, with the attack having killed at least about 13 people on the ground. Now, these images show the latest bombings carried out by the Israelis a while back in the Chehor village of Lebanon, and other villages also came under attack by the Israelis that include Deir Kifa, Ainata, and Tar Filse. The Israeli army claims that it killed a member of the Hezbollah. Now, Israel has accused the Lebanese group of trying to rearm after the ceasefire, but Hezbollah has said that it has abided by the terms of the ceasefire by withdrawing from the border region near Israel, and with Lebanon deploying the country's army instead. And this is the moment that captures the strike on the southern Lebanese village of Tar Filse on Tuesday night. The attack came shortly after the IDF issued evacuation warnings. Now, another IDF bombing hit the Ain al-Hilwe refugee camp on the outskirts of the coastal city of Sidon. Now, this is a Palestinian refugee camp, and Hamas fighters and representatives are also present in the area, and they've called Israelis' bombings a message of intimidation for the Palestinian people.
It is a message of intimidation to our Palestinian people in the Palestinian camps, meant to produce political outcomes. It is one of many forms of pressure that our Palestinian people are being subjected to.
The deadliest bombings in Lebanon since a year of ceasefire have ripped through makeshift tents, a building and several cars in the area. Now, the Israeli bombings have come just days after images showed the workers on the Israeli side of the border with Lebanon constructing a concrete wall, which Lebanon says extends beyond the agreed-upon blue line. The blue line is the United Nations mapped line which demarcates Lebanon from Israel and the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. The IDF had withdrawn to the blue line back in 2000. The latest contention between Israel and Lebanon has now reached the United Nations, with Israeli officials denying accusations by their Lebanese counterpart of defying an agreed-upon boundary. Now, at least about 29 people, including patients, were killed in an attack in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The attack has been blamed on rebels from the Allied Democratic Forces who targeted a health center and several villages. Now, following the attack, which reportedly took place on Friday night, close to 23 bodies were recovered by the residents and local officials in the DRC's North Kivu province. Now, the victims from the health facility reportedly included about 11 women, while additional civilians were killed in 3 nearby villages. The health center that was attacked serves as a referral health center for residents, including those displaced by the ongoing violence. Local media reports have suggested that the rebels also burned part of the facility's buildings along with several homes. Now, the attack has come just weeks after about 20 civilians were killed and several others were injured in an attack that has been blamed on the ADF rebels in the same territory in October. The Ugandan and the Congolese forces have carried out some joint operations against the rebels since 2021.
With just a few days to go to the first ever G20 Leaders Summit in Africa, South Africa's security cluster says it's ready to secure delegates from around the world. On Wednesday, the acting Minister of Police and the National Police Commissioner rallied troops at a parade in Soweto, saying they must act decisively against troublemakers.
We want you to do the work in terms of the Constitution, in terms of all various laws that we have in the country, and make sure that you do it with all your zest and dedication. There is no any other one behind you that will have hope on. The hope is on you. So as such, make sure that when you deal with the society and the delegations, you can give that smile. And when you deal with criminals, handle them the way you're supposed to deal with a criminal.
The police service says protests at the summit in Johannesburg will only be allowed in designated areas around the venue. Several civil society groups are planning to hold demonstrations over the weekend, and it says those who fail to comply will face the full might of the law. A hard lockdown will be enforced from Friday around the summit venue, which will remain in place until Monday.
Poland's top general has issued a stark warning, claiming Russia is actively preparing for war against NATO. This comes after a key rail link between Warsaw and Ukraine was blown up in what Polish officials called an unprecedented act of sabotage. General Wiesław Kukula, chief of the Polish armed forces, said Russia had begun the period of preparing for war and is working to undermine public trust and create conditions for potential aggression towards foreign territory. Any attack on Poland would instantly trigger NATO's Article 5, which means that every member, including the UK, would be drawn into conflict. After calls with leaders in France and Germany, Sir Keir Starmer confirmed Britain would stand ready to support any further NATO deployments to the region. To counter the Russian threat, Poland has been rapidly strengthening its defences. Since 2022, it has bought hundreds of tanks and rocket systems, spending over $60 billion, making it one of NATO's most heavily armed nations. Meanwhile, the war in Ukraine continues to intensify. In the Kharkiv region, a 17-year-old girl died after a missile strike, while multiple pensioners were injured following explosions in Dnipro. Ukraine retaliated by hitting Russian-occupied Donetsk, knocking out 2 major power plants and disrupting electricity and heating supplies.
At the US-Saudi Investment Forum, President Donald Trump says the visiting Saudi Crown Prince has urged him to help end Sudan's brutal civil war, a conflict that has already claimed more than 40,000 lives.
I settled 8 wars, and I'll tell you, His Majesty would like me to do something very powerful having to do with Sudan. Got that settled. I settled 8 wars, and I'll tell you, His Majesty would like me to do something very powerful having to do with Sudan. It was not on my my charts to be involved in that. I thought it was just something that was crazy and out of control. But I just see how important that is to you and to a lot of your friends in the room. Sudan, and we're going to start working in Sudan. I didn't think that that was one that was going to be...
Donald Trump's claims that he's ended 8 conflicts are drawing scrutiny. Analysts say some are clear exaggerations, others reflect limited or tentative progress, and a few don't make sense at all. Still, Trump continues to tout his record. He had openly campaigned for a Nobel Peace Prize.
Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power Yahweh, Baha Shem Yahweh Shah, Baha Shem Rachak Kodash. Double honor to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopefully elect of the tabernacles of David scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth, wherever you may be, to you I say Shalom, Yahshua, Shalom. All right, this is going to be quick here because I just want to talk about this one portion of the news. As we mentioned recently, about ICE moving into Charlotte, okay, which they're already in Charlotte. Which you see most of these news clippings are actually talking about Charlotte anyways. We can click one of them, maybe. Let's click this one. Maybe see. All right. Now, we're not going to read the whole thing. We're just going to tap to it real quick. Arrest tally grows to 250 in an immigration enforcement surge in Charlotte, North Carolina. All right. Hold on. Here we go. So it says a federal immigration crackdown dubbed Charlotte's Web. Well, I didn't know it had a name to it. Okay. So that's new. A federal immigration crackdown dubbed Charlotte's Web, okay, has netted 250 arrests in North Carolina's largest city, officials said on Wednesday. The arrest of people allegedly in the country illegally came in a span of just 4 days, officials said. Okay, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and federal agencies continue to target some of the most dangerous criminal illegal aliens as Operation Charlotte's Web progresses. A spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, said in a statement, said in a statement on Wednesday, this immigration enforcement surge in the Charlotte area has led to the arrest of over 250 illegal aliens as of the evening of 11/18, November the 18th. All right, the announcement of the arrest tally in Charlotte came a day after Greg Bovino, the commander at large of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, blamed North Carolina Governor Josh Stein for what he said was an increase in violent rhetoric that federal agents are facing in their immigration enforcement blitz in the state. Bovino took to social media on Tuesday to slam Stein, a Democrat who released a statement over the weekend asking residents of the Tar Heel state to report any inappropriate behavior they witnessed from federal agents. If you see any inappropriate behavior, use your phones to record and notify local law enforcement, who will continue to keep your community safe after these federal agents leave, Stein said. Okay. And you can get to more of that if you like. This was recent. They just got up into Charlotte, and now based on the news clip we have, and I've said this, through the Spirit at Camp before, which it's not hard to see anyways, because the crackdown is I guess you can call it crackdown, whatever case you want to call it, but this ICE operation is basically going to hit all states. Okay, they're not going to stop. It's not just going to. This is going to. Oh, we'll call it quits now. Okay, no, this is going to be ongoing. Okay, and I've said it at camp before. Over near, my main camp spot. Near Issachar. All right. Because they got to be aware. All right. Whether they were here for bear about, ICE. Because that's the thing. The Lord is open for Israel to return. But if not, then you get caught up in this. Now, ultimately, in the time of Jacob's trouble, just to balance it out, you are going to have individuals that get caught up in the FEMA camps, but that's just part of their walk. It's part of their lot. Whether they be a martyr, whether they be delivered, or whatever the case may be. All right, But moving on, that was the Charlotte piece. But what we have here in the news clips this evening is actually fresh from pretty much from yesterday, or not. Well, I guess you could say clips from yesterday. What I mean is, here this is put it in perspective right there. It's by Axios. So, Federal Border Patrol to begin operation in Raleigh on Tuesday. So that said, it's plain. That's what I meant when I was saying yesterday, because today is Wednesday. This evening, right now, still on Wednesday. Well, I guess not according to the Hebrew calendar, but we know what I mean. All right. According to Esau's calendar, it's still Wednesday. So Tuesday. This was yesterday. All right. So, Federal Border Patrol to begin operation in Raleigh on Tuesday. Mayor confirms. Okay. Let's read some of this. The Trump administration will deploy Federal Border Patrol agents to Raleigh on Tuesday for its immigration crackdown. Raleigh Mayor Janet Cowell told Axios Monday night. Cowell said in an interview she had been notified of a pending U.S. Customs and Border Protection operation by the Raleigh Police Department and Governor Josh Stein's office. Why it matters, the operation, which Cowell said was uncoordinated with the city, comes after the U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents have carried out multiple days of arrest in Charlotte. Driving news. The Assembly was first to report that CPB would operate in Raleigh, citing Democratic legislative sources briefed by Stein's office. Tricia McLaughlin, Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, declined to discuss Border Patrol's plans. Every day, DHS enforces the laws of the nation across the country. We do not discuss future or potential operations, McLaughlin said in a statement. The big picture, the Trump administration is targeting immigration enforcement in Democratic-run cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, and most recently Charlotte. Okay, so there's starting to be a mixed, because before it started, obviously it started with just Northern Kingdom. Now, you know, the different cities that they're moving to now are more so, which I believe it all originated in LA, if I'm correct. That's what it was, LA. But anyways, the point I'm making is now these areas starting to have a mixed population of both Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom. Okay, I saw one clip, was it earlier today? I can't remember, where it was some dude, I think it was some Chinese dude, was in one of these FEMA camps. Okay, I think he got deleted, and they said it was self-checkout. Okay, but yeah, and you know, he had like the brother that was in the article, you know, because how they get, you know, comments from the family members, and he said my brother didn't deserve this and this and that and the third thing, and then when they talk about him in the article, dude was a straight up demon. He was a criminal. All right, he was committing fraud and all kinds of things. All right, and ended up, and he had a whole criminal record. All right, ended up in a FEMA camp, whatever, detention center, and ended up. They say it was self checkout, but who knows? But yeah, I saw that earlier today, man. A Moabite, I think it was. But anyways, the main target is Jake. Okay, he has declared you as the enemy within. All right, can't forget that. The Trump administration, which we know that according to the scriptures. Okay, because even, let me get that real quick if I can. Because it goes back to what Jacob and Esau in the womb. What am I looking for? I'm tripping. I want 7. Yep, right here. Yep, this is right after Esau's blessing. And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, meaning his mind, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. You see? And the words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah. And she sent and called Jacob her younger son, and said unto him, Behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doeth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. And it goes back to what? This is all centered around the birthright. See? So jumping back down here. Let's see what else is down here. Okay, actually that's the end of the article there. So it's pretty short. What's this? Something else. All right. So that's pretty much it. I mean, unless we jump down too far, I don't think we did. Because we were reading this though. So far, the Triangle has not seen mass immigration enforcement, but nearby Charlotte has seen more than 130 arrests since Saturday. In Charlotte, agents have reportedly stopped at construction sites. See, and I was going to end on the scripture anyway. So beautiful. The water happens from a shot because it's going to lead us there. In Charlotte, agents have reportedly stopped at construction sites, Home Depot, an international grocery store, a country club, and in various other locations. Okay. what they're saying. Governor Stein told Axios in a statement that his office was aware of the reports. He encouraged Raleigh residents to remain peaceful and record and report wrongdoing. I call on federal agents to target violent criminals, not neighbors walking down the street, going to church, or putting up Christmas decorations. Stop targeting people simply going about their lives because of the color of their skin, as you are doing in Charlotte, he wrote in the statement. Okay, so that's the uproar right now. And I want to go back and hinge on this. Okay, reportedly stopped at construction sites, Home Depot, International Grocery Store, a country club, and various other locations. Let me see what comes up if I click one of these. Okay, I don't have it fixed. All right, but still. And this is, them swiftly moving through North Carolina from Charlotte now already, as of yesterday, in Raleigh. Okay, and as we just read this last portion here, I'll bring this book back up. Okay, let me reload that. All right, and now this is referring to the Babylonian time period, but I like to bring this out because the scripture say there's nothing new under the sun. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this out. What verse was it? Here we go. As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. They hunt, and yeah, you had a lot of these Latino for Trump, right? And then look what he's doing. Really, it's not him, but he's a puppet. So, he say him because that's who they're going to look to, the El Presidente. Okay, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. They hunt our steps that we cannot go in our streets. See, that's the point I wanted to bring out. Because ICE, not referring to Raleigh or Charlotte, just any area, right, that they previously, what they're currently in, because they have just moved away from these other areas that came before. But they're going to houses. They're showing up at the courtrooms and people's court dates. They're going to, they're camping out outside of daycare centers. You see the Home Depots, grocery stores, whatever else that was mentioned, various laundromats, all right, storefronts, okay. The one event where they were doing an illegal U-turn and crashed into the lady, and they pulled her out of her car because they crashed into her. All right, so that's the kind of stuff that's happening right now with the nation of Israel. And as the Lord says, hey, the mercy is his mercy isn't shut off just yet because the doors are still open to repent. Okay, and then so that's the point. So they hunt our steps that we cannot go in our streets. Our end is near. Our days are fulfilled, for our end is come. Okay, our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of the heaven. And look how quickly they hit this place from Charlotte to Raleigh just that quickly. They pursue us upon the mountains. They lay wait for us in the wilderness. All right. I'm just leave it at that, So just a quick little hit about the ICE, okay, in North Carolina, in Charlotte, and now in Raleigh. Okay, so enjoy the rest of the news. Lord, will you edify?
Fresh off a volatile weekend in Charlotte, where federal agents arrested more than 130 migrants, including some with criminal records, and drew fierce pushback from local leaders, federal immigration officers are now on the move again. This time they're headed less than 200 miles north on I-85 to Raleigh. Raleigh Mayor Janet Cowell confirmed to local station WRAL that Border Patrol arrived Monday and will begin operations in the capital city today. Protesters taking to the streets there Monday. The mayor says it's her understanding the focus will be on people in the country illegally who have committed crimes, but made clear the city did not request this federal push. In her words, quote, "We didn't ask for this presence. We feel like Raleigh police are doing a great job here locally." Cowell also said the city received no details about the scope or timing of the crackdown. What started as a peaceful youth-led protest in Mexico City on Saturday ended with clashes near the National Palace and dozens injured. Mexico City's security chief says about 120 people were injured, at least 100 of them police, and 20 people were arrested, with 20 more referred for administrative offenses. Reuters reporters on the ground saw riot police fire tear gas after hooded protesters tore down fencing in the Zocalo. A group calling itself Generation Z Mexico organized the march, though older opposition supporters also joined. Organizers circulated a Generation Z Mexico manifesto calling the movement nonpartisan and fed up with insecurity and corruption. Anger intensified after the November 1st shooting of local Mayor Carlos Manzo at a public Day of the Dead event. President Claudia Sheinbaum condemned the violence. In the days before the rally, she also accused right-wing parties of infiltrating the movement and using social media bots to boost turnout. Unrest was not limited to the capital. Protests spread to cities nationwide. In Guadalajara, officials reported 47 detentions and 13 injuries. Mexico City is processing arrests and treating the injured as the debate widens. How to tackle crime without chilling dissent, and whether this Gen Z frame becomes a lasting banner or a flashpoint.